The Road is a book written by Cormac McCarthy, published in 2006. This short film will analyze and discuss this book with the underlying research question: what happens to the people when the traditional framework of society disappears? The setting of The Road is quite similar to other post-apocalyptic stories. As I just said, we are placed in a post-apocalyptic world, more specifically the United States. In general, everything is described by the man as grey. This is a continuing description throughout the book, but mostly at the start. The date and year are not known to the reader, but we know that the man believes that it was October at the start of the book. This just means that they have been in this world so long that they have lost track of date and time. And if we connect this up to the question we have throughout this film, we see that the quite day-to-day thing that is called date and time to us becomes completely irrelevant when this situation is put upon us humans. The description of objects and structures around the man and the boy suggests that the time period is at least not before our time. This means that they are either in the future or in the present. Some examples that suggest that it's not the past are, for example, trucks and cars, big bridges and dams, metal boats, and of course these shopping carts used by the man and boy. Throughout the book, we are introduced to a very select few people. We are following the man and his son, which once had a mother. They meet a man struck by lightning. They meet an old blind man, a dog, a thief, and a little boy. These are, named by the man, the good guys. They also have 3 occurrences of groups of so-called bad guys. There is a remarkably and interesting difference between the 2 main characters. The boy was born after the catastrophic events and therefore has no experience when it comes to the world as it was. On the other hand, his father has lived through and before these terrible times, as well as witnessed his partner kill herself. She killed herself because of the apocalypse, making it easy for the man to become tired of life and close to giving up. His most prominent feature is that he is very skeptical. He takes no chances, kills if he must, and protects his child at all costs. Even though the boy has been raised by this no-chance-taking man, he still has some of the caring, innocent features of a little boy. He is opportunistic, opposed to his realistic father, and even though they are the only people influencing each other, the boy is still able to keep some of those characteristics. You might believe that a mindset of such is instinctive, and this is very interesting if you put it up to a research question where the society is totally different than it used to be, but this boy is being born into this dark world, and even though his only experience is this dark, depressive world, he still has some of those positive and caring features, which in reality shouldn't exist, but still does, even though this traditional framework of society is not there anymore. You realize that throughout the book, the man develops some of the child's characteristics, and the same goes for the child. It develops some of the man's characteristics, and they in a way blend together as one personality. This story is about an unnamed man and an unnamed boy traveling the dead landscapes of a post-apocalyptic North America. There was a woman who is now dead. They try to travel south towards the coast without knowing what is there. They meet very few people. Their very first encounter was a man struck by lightning. He ended up dying and they moved on. Some of the encounters were scary and threatening. They met people who tried to kill them. They met people who ate their own babies to survive. But they also met people who just wanted to talk, people who wanted to survive, and people who seemed on their side as these good guys. Upon their travels, they suddenly find this great stockpiled survival bunker with lots of food and water and everything they could need. And this is, in a way, the point of the book where these people are the most happy. They stay there for a couple of days, but because of this dog that the man hears, they get scared and run away. For the rest of the book, it looks like it's going downwards for these two people. They meet some other people, an old man, they have a meal with this man, but they go on without him. They reach the south coast, but they reach seeing nothing new. Just same old grey landscape, and this is a very depressing point of the book, where it seems like everything is going to end. But they survive some more, they find stuff to eat, they find some new weapons, and they carry on. But suddenly a thief steals all their stuff. Luckily, the man and the boy manage to find the thief and taking back their own stuff. After a while, the man dies of sickness, leaving the boy by himself. Some days later, a man with his group approaches him and invites him to join them. This is when the boy realizes and gets to know that this group of people have been following the man and the boy throughout the whole book. It is the dog that scared them away, a little boy that they met across the journey, and they say that they have been watching over and trying to protect the boy. Now that the father's dead, they could finally fully protect the boy, and after the boy joins them, the book ends. When we are looking at the point of view of this story, this is rhetorically a third-person story with an outside perspective, but we are looking mostly from the man's line of thoughts. We are viewing this story from an outside perspective, where the man and the boy are portrayed as such a small part of the world, but simultaneously viewing the two very closely and personal. They are like two dots in an enormous world, and we see that, but we also get to see them up close and personal. Some examples of this ginormous and also personal view is when we look at them standing on a huge bridge looking over the dead landscape, in contrast to when the man finds this bunker, and all of a sudden we get a much more up close perspective on these two individuals. Also, when viewing and reading about these two personalities living in this apocalyptic world, we see that they show how they don't care anymore about things. It's only survival. And this is of course tied to the research question, where we see how this world works now that there's no framework anymore, and it's just that they don't care about things anymore. Looking at this book and talking about conflicts, there is, in my opinion, a very big, large-scale conflict where we have this boy and this man against the whole world. Everyone against them, and they need to conquer everything. At least this is how the man portrays it. Since we're in this post-apocalyptic world, you could say that everything in this book is a conflict. Everyone is against each other, trying to kill each other, just trying to survive. But on a deeper, smaller level, you could say that the man and the boy's personalities conflict with each other. Like I have said earlier, the man is very skeptic and nervous and don't take any chances, but the boy is much more open-minded and positive, something that most likely, and as we have seen, will conflict with each other when put together in such a way. They're just those two put together, no one else is affecting them, and throughout the story, at least, when you get more into the story, you see that these two personalities conflict with each other and also blends a little bit, but mostly slows down the process, the main goal of getting south. And also looking at the research question, we could easily see that when the society and the framework of society is removed, everything becomes a conflict and people are against each other and nothing matters anymore. As we know, Cormac McCarthy has written this book, and throughout most of his other work, there is this hidden Christianity behind a lot of quotes and a lot of hidden meanings linked to Christianity. This is also a concept in The Road. For example, when the old blind man and the man are having a discussion while they're eating dinner, they talk about God, and the old man says that I hope that this boy is not God, because if God is here with us tonight, then all hope is lost. This is just a way of using Christianity in your texts. The Road describes painful and damper situations perfectly. The description makes the reader familiar with the end of the world setting. This is used throughout the whole book, and it's very clear that his way of writing is focused on the description of the setting in such a way that we are getting immersed into the book. I noticed as well that his way of writing is very simple. It's not overly complicated, and the punctuation is minimal. Instead of using commas when listing something, he uses and multiple times, like they went there and then they went there and then they ate this and then they ate that. There's no usual use of comma or other punctuation throughout the book, which to me seemed at first a little bit weird, but after getting more into the book, it felt natural with the whole setting and situation of the book. I feel like there's a bit of a turning point in the book when they reach the southern coast and they are met with the same exact grey horizon that they were used to. After this, the man seemed to have changed. He starts to acknowledge his sickness, and he looks as he have given up. The boy have clearly not given up, but when the man dies and the boy meets his new group of people, you could say that he is released from his father's effect on him. There's a skeptic part of him. The last bit of the book is a big change in their lives. The man passes away from sickness, and the boy meets this family of 5 that has the dog he saw, as well as a little boy that ran away from him. You find out that they have been following them and watching over the boy, something that could be linked to McCarthy's style of writing. I'm talking about watching over someone, something that an angel would do. So Christianity, a Christian sign in McCarthy's book. You realize that these people that the father, the skeptics, was staying away from just to be safe, did not want to harm them. Throughout the whole book, there is this cooperation between the two, which only seemed to get them so far. The child's trust in humanity is really enlightened in the book, and even more prominent after his father's death. Therefore, I think the theme of this book is how people are so vastly different, and together they might harm each other's personalities. Even though the father's only mission was to protect his child, it got to the point that no other man could be trusted. This links up with the question, what happens to people when society stops existing? When we see through this book how it divides the few remaining humans. Some choose to do everything to live, even if it is to eat your own child or someone else's, while someone chooses to live like the good guys and search for reasonable ways of gaining food. Desperate times makes people show the instinctive survivalist features, and the book shows how different personalities collide. And for me, when the boy meets this last group of people and he recognizes some of them, it's kind of mind-blowing to realize that all these people, the dog and the little boy that they just ran away from and didn't want anything to do with, just in case, ended up being the people who would take him in and lead him on in life. And it's really interesting to see how powerful that last bit of the book is. It's a really good ending, and it truly makes you think about everything in this story. It makes you resonate everything they had gone through, so you can understand more of the book. And in my opinion, that is what makes a book so great.